The Boston Celtics are up 2-0 in the NBA Finals, and they are winning as a team. Meanwhile, the Mavericks are relying on one guy, Luka, to try to carry them, but they're losing. What about in our own lives? Are we living in a way that is in isolation and we're trying to do things alone? Or are we inviting others into our life to walk alongside us to help carry us? Let's unpack it. Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack parallels, metaphors, and topics in sports that relate to life and faith. I'm Bryce Johnson in Charlotte, North Carolina, joined today by guest co-host Stephen Stack, good friend of mine. Excited to have him on the show. I will introduce him in just a moment. On today's episode, we are unpacking the difference between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks so far in the NBA Finals. It's early in the series, but there's some big takeaways. And so we will look at how that parallels our own life and what does it mean to really, rely on teammates, depend on teammates versus doing things on our own. And so we will we'll have some fun with that topic today. Encourage everybody to check out our website, unpackingit.com. You can email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com. Also, hopefully you've already gotten your copy of the sports devotional, 30 Days of Encouragement for Following Jesus, and had somebody text me just this week or a couple days ago. We wrote about Luka in this book. And so there's one or two topics about the Mavericks actually in the book. So check that out. You can go to thesportsdevotional.com. Also, it's the summer, but we are right around the corner from the fantasy football season starting up. And so that means we are ramping up Fantasy Football Fellowship. So check out fantasyfootballfellowship.com. Join the community today. It's free. We've got resources and content for your league to play with purpose this season. So check it out, fantasyfootballfellowship.com. Lastly, I want to thank our sponsor today, Upward Sports. They equip churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. And so whether you're a sports fanatic or you're on staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry that allows you to reach families in your community. And so by you partnering with Upward Sports, your church will have the opportunity to customize unique player packages, choose the sports you want to offer. You can access ministry resources, devotions, coach resources, and gospel materials. So take time today to visit upward.org/unpack, and you can schedule a call to customize your sports experience with Upward Sports, upward.org/unpack. All right, it's time to welcome on our guest co-host today. He's Stephen Stack. He's the president of the Charlotte chapter of the King Movement. And so King is a national Christian men's movement geared toward strengthening men in their personal relationship with Jesus Christ by providing brotherhood, encouragement, accountability, knowledge, and fellowship. Those are the things we're talking about today. Many of those items are a part of today's topic. Stephen's he's a busy guy. So he is also a financial consultant whose mission is to help others build wealth holistically. He is 100% debt-free. He became a millionaire by age 31. Wow. By investing in the stock market and real estate. He believes wealth isn't just what's in your bank account, but also the person you're becoming. Check out StephenLStack.com. All right, Stephen. Great to see you, man. Glad to have you back on Unpacking It. How you doing?
Man, it is great to be here, man. This is a pleasure, for real, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, we got to talk NBA Finals, but before we talk about this specific matchup, have you enjoyed the playoffs? What are some of your overall takeaways from the NBA playoffs so far?
So I definitely have. It's been a changing of the guard. So
Yes.
all of the old school guys relative to the league today
Yep.
are completely gone. You know what I mean? It's like Steph didn't even make the playoffs. KD and LeBron out in the first round. You know what I mean? So it's been crazy to see all the young guys like vying for the top spot. Is Anthony Edwards the face of the league? To they got him out of there with Luka, and now Celtics and Dallas. Man, I've enjoyed it. I really have.
I have too, and I like the new era of players. And admittedly, I'm a Lakers fan, and it's hard to root for the Celtics. But in this series, I like this Celtics team a lot. I really do, and so that's what we'll talk about today. I'm not a big Luka guy. I appreciate what he's capable of doing, but for
Sure.
some reason, I don't love his game. I'm not a Luka guy.
You
Now,
don't like him complaining to the refs, man? That doesn't excite you?
well, that's it. I mentioned the devotional. That's the devotional in this book. It's about complaining. That's the one. That's it.
Right.
So it wears me out. And when I played basketball, I was a little bit of a whiner too, but I don't want to watch a guy whine. If I'm whining, that's on me, but I don't want to watch a guy whine. So Luka,
Right.
come on, man. It's tough. But
Right.
I'm a Duke guy. So Jason Tatum, of course, a Duke player. And so is Kyrie. So
for like 2 seconds, you know what I mean? I think he played like 8 or 9 games, something like that.
That's it. And I've always held that against him. And I almost did today's podcast about the topic of changing your mind and people change and that kind of thing. But because Kyrie hasn't played well through the first 2 games, I couldn't go there. I couldn't make that the whole topic today. But I will say I've come around a little bit on Kyrie. He's still he's not one of my favorite players. So anyway, so I side with Tatum. I'll say that. But through the first 2 games, what have you kind of noticed? Do you feel like Dallas can get back into the series?
So a lot of takeaways from it. It is clear the dynamic is team versus bona fide star.
Big time.
So like Luka is, in my eyes, the best player, you know what I mean, or just the way he's playing, even in the first 2 games, that he's been the most effective, even though I don't necessarily think he's played like super great for his standards.
A little banged up, apparently.
Right. You're right. Yeah, I think he's got a knee issue or something like that. So you've got that, and Kyrie to this point has played pretty rough, to put it nicely. And then you have Boston, who it's really just been a team, like just watching it of like the first game, you had Porzingis come out the gate like
crazy,
hair on fire. You know what I mean? Making shots, blocking shots. Like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. You know what I mean? And Drew Holiday has been just ridiculous. Two-way player, defense, offense. Timely plays from people. Which, by the way, I may have to ask you later, because you're saying you're pulling for Boston. It is frustrating watching Tatum drive and either like not even want to shoot the ball, like seeming like he's driving only to pass, or miss a bunch of layups and threes.
It's been crazy, the missed layups. I mean,
my goodness,
they're difficult shots. There's some enforcers down low for Dallas.
Sure.
Another Duke guy, Derek Lively down there, and Gafford and all that. But still, you got to knock down those layups. And so, we'll talk more about kind of Tatum's struggles.
Right.
But just to talk about some of these other players on Boston, Drew Holiday, the fact that I heard it in the broadcast, he's the winningest player in the NBA the last, I think, 4 seasons. Right. So no matter where he is, no matter what he's doing, he's a winner. And so I love Drew Holiday. I mean, he's one of the top-notch guys in the NBA. Wow.
Yeah.
And his impact on this team, and the fact I heard it the other night, Bob Myers, he said the MVP of the series is actually Brad Stevens, because he pulled off these trades and put this roster together.
Right.
And so they complement each other. They fit so well. And so we'll dive into it. So the bottom line is Jason Tatum has been Boston's best player, and he's been their leading scorer even throughout the playoffs. I checked up until this point, barely. Jason Tatum's right behind him, or Jaylen Brown is right behind him.
Yep.
And Jaylen, of course, has played better from a scoring standpoint through the first 2 games.
Right.
But while Tatum has struggled with his shot, not hitting layups, missing threes, he has been able to get other guys involved. He's opened up things. So then Drew Holiday's been able to knock down shots.
Yep.
But the key for us to focus on today is the fact that these other players have helped to carry Jason Tatum in the midst of his shot not falling. In the midst of his struggles, other guys are coming in and stepping up, stepping in, and whether, Porzingis first game, Holiday the last game, even Pritchard coming in and hitting the
bank shot.
Court.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
So all these guys are doing that, and then on the flip side, you mentioned Luka. Where is everybody else? I mean, this stat jumped out to me especially. Boston has over five guys averaging 16 or more points. The Dallas, they got one guy with 16 or more points. Luka, that's it.
Right.
So that you see the difference where Dallas is relying on one guy to carry them, and they're falling short. Boston, everybody's contributing. Everybody's stepping up. They're carrying Tatum, and they're up 2-0. And I think it's pretty clear Boston's going to win this series. I mean, it's obvious. And it shifts back to Dallas. So I don't know what what kind of chances you're giving Dallas to get back into the series, but I see them maybe winning one game.
It better be game 3. Otherwise, we might be getting the brooms out.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't think that Dallas they just don't have enough. And I think Kyrie will play much better. That was tough going to Boston with that kind of crowd booing him every time he touches the ball. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. That's brutal.
True.
He hasn't risen to the occasion necessarily either.
Right.
But let's say he has a big game. Okay, you still got Luka and Kyrie, and maybe PJ Washington knocks down some threes and that kind of thing.
Right.
Boston's throwing multiple guys at you that can all score more than 16, that can all score 20, 25 points. Right. Even Horford, he's got one big game in him, right? He can do it. He's a little older now, but he can knock down threes. Boston hasn't hit any threes. They're due.
Right.
So it's been impressive all season long. Boston's been the team. They've been great in the Eastern Conference, the depth, the number of weapons. And now we're seeing it on the big stage. And Dallas is going, hey, we got one guy, we got Luka. But that's not the case. It's not enough. They've got the depth. They've got the deep roster. And they're up 2-0. Yeah. What's crazy, though, is that in the NBA, sometimes the narrative is the best player wins, right? Jordan won all the championships. When Kobe was the best, when LeBron's been the best, they win. Giannis, that 1 year. You can make that case to a certain extent. But when you see teams that put together a full lineup, a full roster, they're able to overcome that. And even going back to some of those teams, Jordan had a lot of guys he had to rely on. He had to depend on multiple teammates. It wasn't just him out there scoring 100 points. That's not how the NBA works. That's not how basketball works. It is a team sport. That's you got to rely on other guys to contribute. There's no getting around it.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I mean, even with Jordan, he comes back and gets put out by the Orlando Magic. Then they get Dennis Rodman.
That's right.
Who's a Hall of Famer, to make plays, make things happen. Jordan passed the ball to Steve Kerr. He passed the ball. If you go back even further to John Paxson, to make key shots. So, you need your teammates. You can't just do it by yourself. Sure.
And it sounds, simple and cliche, but we are seeing it play out. And even just in listening to the reactions from the media and seeing different headlines, this is the theme of this series. There's no getting around it. So I was listening to Colin Cowherd yesterday, Fox Sports. He says, this has become a one-man team, Luka, against a much deeper roster. Doris Burke on ESPN. Luka Doncic alone will not get this done. Fort Worth Star-Telegram. They have no chance if no one other than Doncic, say that 3 times, shows up. We just got to call him Luka. And then the ringer.com reads, Luka Doncic is the finals best player, but that's not enough to beat the Boston Celtics. CBS Sports, Celtics versus Mavericks score, NBA Finals Game 2 takeaways as Jason Tatum gets help. Luka Doncic doesn't. And then the sub-headline that says, Luka can't do this alone.
Mm,
Can't do it
mm,
alone. Who's going to step up? Who's
yeah,
going to step in? Who's going to help carry the load so that Luka does not have to do this alone? And and again, he's banged up. So even he can't do all that maybe he's normally capable of.
right.
You got to have other guys pick him up, carry him as well.
Yeah, it's funny because this series kind of reminds me, and this is for like the real hoop fans that have been watching for a while, the Detroit Pistons versus the Lakers.
Oh yeah.
So it was Kobe, Shaq. They had a much older Karl Malone on that team. I think Gary Payton was on
Yes.
that team. And so I know they had like some internal like team strife, but the Pistons didn't really have like stars. You had like Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace,
Ben
Ben
Wallace,
Wallace,
Rip Hamilton.
um, yeah, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince.
Oh yeah, Tayshaun. Yeah.
Right, right, right. And but they were a team. They worked together. They were definitely the deeper team, and those dudes still could play. So
Oh
like
yeah.
Jason Tatum's a great player. Jalen Brown, Eastern Conference MVP now. Now he's got a trophy to go with it. Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis. You know what I mean? Like so, they've got real players, but they've been working together as a team. Picking each other up. Um, and honestly, it's been pretty cool to see the dynamic and just how that relates to life, um, of doing it alone versus having a crew with you, having community, just having people having your back.
That's right. So let's talk about it because yeah, this really is a great parallel to life because so often we we buy the lie that we just have to do it alone, right? I'll figure it out. I'll get through this. I'll carry the load. And so we try to do things in our own strength and we try to, just figure it out. And that's kind of what Luka's doing, right? He's just trying to figure it out. He's trying to get the momentum going alone. And he's looking around going, all right, come on. I can only do so much here. And so have we gotten to that point in our own lives to say, all right, I've been trying to do things alone. This isn't working. And are we willing to admit that to say the isolation route? And, I think about the NBA and I think about isolation guys, the James Hardens of the world, and sort of that the era of basketball that was, I think Kevin Durant. I mean, I know Durant won, but you
But
talk about
but
the changing
but
of the
but when
guard
but when did he win? When did he win? What kind
on a
of
great
team was he
team.
on?
That's
Thank you.
it. He was
Thank you.
he played a role within that. But yeah, when he was trying to do it on his own, and it's the Kevin Durant show, hasn't worked. And so for us, last week on the show, we talked about the power of Christ within us and relying on the power of the Holy Spirit. And so we have access to that power. And so that's where the power comes from. Along with that, God has also given us the body of Christ, other believers, those of us that Stephen's got the power of Christ within him. I got the power of Christ within me. And so we now do life together. That's what we are invited into when we join God's family. He's given us teammates. He's designed this for us not to be alone, not to do life alone, not to walk with Jesus alone. We do it in community. And so Jesus did it in community too
Mm,
with the disciples, right? He
right,
had the close knit group. He had a couple guys that he was even closer to. Then he had his 12. And so they ate together, they did life together, they walked together, they served together. That's the design. That's the blueprint that we have. And
right.
so for you, Stephen, how has this played out? You're a hard charging guy. You got a lot going on. How
Yeah.
have you learned to say, I can't do all this alone. I need other guys in my life to be a part of this?
So just having people in your sphere, in your space that can just speak to you.
Mm,
Like even as simple as having someone just shoot you a text, "Hey man, how you been?"
yep.
You know what I mean? But like for real, not just the, "Hey, how are you? How things going?" And just fine. No, give me details, man. What's happening? You know what I mean? How is life treating you? Where or people ask, "Hey man, how can I pray for you?"
That's right.
like being more specific. And granted, I want to be clear, you do want to use some discretion of not just blasting your information out to any and everybody. So there should be some meaningful level of relationship there, like as you share. So you want to use discernment there. But assuming those things are intact, just having people that you can talk to about where you are, how you're feeling, how you're dealing with things. And one thing I want to add to this is it doesn't have to be all bad. Like a lot of times people think about, having community and having people around you as I gotta, just dump bad
Mm,
stuff onto them.
it's a good
Man,
point.
part of, like, for me personally, what part of the best things of life for me is being able to celebrate wins with other people.
That's right.
So, like, having friends saying, "Hey, man, I reached this milestone," or "This awesome thing happened in my life," whether it's, family wise or relationally, or getting the promotion, you know what I mean? Or, hey, their kid graduated. Like one guy, within King, his daughter got a full ride scholarship to the college of her choice.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And just being able to celebrate the awesome stuff of life. You know what I mean? So it doesn't always have to be the bad stuff. It's also being able to celebrate others, or others possibly celebrating you, of the great stuff, and saying, "Hey, man, keep going." You
That's
know?
right. I think that's so important. And even with the Celtics, it's you come down, you hit a three, then you get to the rim, you have a nice pass, and you're winning together. Hey, big
Right.
block here. The one block, Derek White and Jalen Brown blocked together, right? You're
Right.
doing it together,
Right.
and so you see the joy and the excitement that they're winning together, and that's a great point as well. It's one thing if one guy's having a big game. Okay, fine. What about everybody having a big game? And you talk
Right.
about the scoring distribution too. 5 different guys, 16 or more points. Let me hit that again. Like that's a big deal. So
Crazy.
they're spreading out the scoring. They're winning together.
Right.
And I think part of the parallel today is, hey, Jason Tatum struggling with a shot. Let's
Mm.
pick him up. Let's step up. And that's a part of life, right? We want to be there for other people when they are struggling, when their shot's not falling. Are we there for them?
Right.
But I love your point too. Also, let's be a part of the celebrating. Let's be
Right.
happy for one another. And also, just I think it's important to have accountability and to be able to confess sin to one another and to get that stuff into the light and to say, hey, I'm struggling here. Can you help me? Pray for me, all those kinds of things. And when you're in the tough seasons of life and you need people to come alongside and walk alongside you. But we also need people in our lives and other teammates that are growing in their faith, that we see it in them, where God's teaching them something in their time in scripture, and they're spending time with the Lord, and they learn something that then they share with us. And now all of a
Right.
sudden you share that with them. So we're growing in different areas. And I've got, certain guys in my life that they're kind of biblical guys, like real biblical scholars, and the kind of the layers of scripture. They've helped me in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
I've been in a life group with them. They really helped me just sort of see some of the Hebrew and different things that maybe I don't necessarily. I'm not as maybe as nerdy as them in that regard. But I've been growing, and so
Yeah.
we do life together in the wins, the spiritual wins. To your point as well. And
Yeah.
so let me read this scripture in Ecclesiastes. Speaking of that group, we studied Ecclesiastes together, but 4, 9, and 10 explains 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. And
Mm.
so there it is. So Luka's falling alone, right? He's losing. He's losing alone. He needs some help. Help Luka. And so, again, some of these questions for us to consider today.
Yeah.
Who's showing up for us? Who are we showing up for? So
Mm.
it's not one-sided. This is a relationship, right? With
Yeah.
other people, with teammates. Who are we relying on? Who's relying on us? Who is picking us up when our shot isn't falling, who's stepping up to fill in the gap, who's stepping in when we need someone to come through for us. And this is the big one. Are we isolating, or are we inviting others to join us in the celebration, to your point, and then also to help each other carry one another's burdens?
Mm,
Are
mm,
we inviting people in? Say,
mm,
hey, here's what's happening. And it
right.
doesn't mean, and back to the Celtics too. Everybody's got different roles. And so there will be people in your life that you got to put together a roster, right? A roster of people in your life, different types of friends, mentors, coaches, pastors, coaches, leader, different people in your life that you can look to at different seasons and for different reasons. And
Right.
so how has that played out for you, Stephen, in your life, kind of having a roster and different roles and different contributions to your overall growth and day-to-day life?
Yeah, no, it's critical. And there were actually a lot of things that you said that I'm like, man, those are just really good to react to. I would just say in general, um, the the best rhythm is to have three layers of people in your life. Someone who is pulling you along, or they're trailblazing the way in front of you. So whether that's, just in life in general, it could be, family wise or marriage wise, parenting, business, or work. Just someone who's beyond where you're at, to just let you know, hey, it's possible, because I'm seeing a walking, breathing example of someone who's further along than I am. You have someone who's kind of right there with you, walking alongside you. You guys are in similar places of life, so you can compare notes,
That's right.
with
Very
what's
relatable.
happening. Yeah, yeah, just like, hey, we're kind of in the same space. And then also having the layer of someone or someone's that you're pulling along, that you're the one that's being the trailblazer for them, that you're the one that's being a source of inspiration through God for them, to say, okay, no, I get it. I see it. This makes sense. Like, I I know I can get there because I see God's faithfulness with this person who's already past me, like further on down the line. So I mean, that's kind of always been the recipe for me, to have layers of people. And by the way, for those listening, it doesn't it's not necessarily going to be all in one person
Mm,
for all of these things. So depending on what part of life you're talking about, you could have one person who's beyond you in one area and also walking alongside you, or potentially you're pulling them along, depending on
mm.
what area of life we're talking about. So just be mindful of how this can produce itself, in your life as you're walking your journey.
Yeah, produce fruit in your life for sure.
Right,
And I
right.
think the one big I don't know, part of this that maybe is obvious. It's like, well, hey, Luca, these are his teammates. Like, he's stuck with them. Like, he's not changing them out, right? For the Mavs. And yeah,
Right.
the parallel breaks down there.
Sure.
But I think maybe one of the frustrations, maybe Luca's like, hey, I'm all alone here. I need guys to step up. And to parallel it for people listening today, where you may say, well, I don't have people in my life. Like, I want people in my life. I just don't have them in my life.
Mm,
And some people maybe, just different personalities, more introverted, just don't have a lot of people. Or I can relate to, young dads. I feel like I'm getting old now, 37, but young dads where you're just all in and it's dad life all the time. And to even get time with other guys is rare and hard to find. And so
right.
I understand that frustration and that frustration that Luca must feel too, right? I'm alone right now. And so the challenge for us today is take a step, right?
Mm,
Reach out to one guy and one girl, whatever it is, whatever your situation is,
right.
and say, all right, let's here's what's going on, or hey, reach out and be intentional to see, how they're doing. How you can pray for them, how you can serve
Yeah.
them, how you can open up the dialogue, open up the
Yes.
conversation, go beyond the surface. But we have to be intentional about this. Otherwise, we're just going to live life alone. We're going to try to get through difficult seasons alone. And you just look through scripture, and we're just encouraged to do life together, to carry each other's burdens. Galatians 6:2 tells us, share each other's burdens. And in this way, obey the law of Christ.
Mm.
And then 1 Thessalonians 5:11 reminds us, therefore, encourage and comfort one another and build up one another, just as you are doing. So if we're doing it, let's keep doing it. There's value in it. There's fruit in it.
Right.
So to have a friend, we got to be a friend, right? That's kindergarten. That's kindergarten principles.
Right. Right.
So we have to live that out, and so we've got to be the kind of teammate that we want others to be.
Yeah. 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 No, I actually was gonna say a good way to start if you feel that you don't have someone in your life yet at this point is to lead with giving, to lead with saying, hey, how can I benefit you? So like you said, being a friend up front, and and setting yourself up for that type of relationship to potentially bud and grow, blossom, and be able to build of, okay, well, man, this guy Bryce is pretty awesome. He's doing this stuff, man. How can I help Bryce? He's helped me out. How can I help him out? So yeah, no, I think that's a great point to look to lean into community, even if it's a small step. The first step is always the most important one.
That's right. That's right. So look around. So here at Unpacking, if you're listening to Unpacking It, you're a part of Unpacking It. I mentioned Fantasy Football Fellowship earlier. So we encourage you to be in a fantasy league. Play fantasy football. We'll come alongside you and help you play with purpose, develop meaningful relationships. And so whether it's your own league or you're looking for a league to join, check it out. fantasyfootballfellowship.com. That's one way. And then also we do something called the Unpacked Lunch on Wednesdays. We do it virtually with different sports fans from around the country. And so we have a great time talking sports, faith, and life. We've also got content designed for what we call packs, which are small groups. So we want you to be in small group, in community. We've got some ways here. We encourage you to get plugged in at your church, right? You can use some of our content even at your church, but be connected in that way too. So whatever the opportunities are in front of you, the challenge today is we got to take those steps. We got to be intentional. And Stephen, you're part of King. And so you guys meet. This is the fabric of what King is all about as well. So you can share about that too.
Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate you even teeing that up. Yeah. King, it's an acronym that stands for knowledge, inspiration, and nurture through God. And it really actually functions very much in that way of just having community. For King, it's for men. But just having us be together, talking life. We've got brothers in every strata of society, and just different setups of guys single, married, kids, no kids, white collar, blue collar, you know what I mean, you name it, but still just connecting from a shared experience of faith and just manhood. To just talk. I mean, we had a crazy group chat on a sports topic. I won't bring it up this time. I'm not going to get us derailed. But it was last night. Unless you want me to share the topic briefly,
Throw it out there. You can throw it out there. I'll hold back my opinions, maybe.
Okay. All I'm going to say is one of the guys lobbed into the chat about whether or not Caitlin Clark should have been invited to the Olympic team, and it just turned into wildfire.
Oh yeah, she's polarizing.
Right,
I'm a fan though. I'm all in. I'm a Caitlin Clark fan. So if she's on, I'm trying to watch. So
right.
That's my take.
So that was the whole deal with that, and now that's not life altering conversation, but just being in community with other men. To where we could talk about stuff that maybe isn't really all that critical to life, but then be able to change gears and then very much talk about things that are critical to life and just where people are at. I've been honored to be a part of this ministry and group over the years, and been able to celebrate with other men, be celebrated with other men. We've mourned together. We've had people who've had, family members pass away, or, job loss, to brothers welcoming new life into the world. So it's been incredible, honestly. Like I've found like some of my best friends on the planet through King, which has been awesome, man.
Oh, I love it. No, that's great. And I came to one of your meetings. That was years ago now, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll
So
have to get you back. We'll have to get
that's
you back.
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, and then of course, former guest on the show, Chris Broussard. He's the founder of King, and so yeah, so great ministry as well. And so yeah, it's this heartbeat of, hey, we got to do life together. So we got to carry each other's burdens. We got to step in, step up when guys need us, and let's not do this alone. Let's not be a one man team.
right,
Let's not
right.
let's have a deep roster. Surround ourselves with guys that can contribute to our lives, that we can contribute to their lives, and let's win together. That's the key. So that's the message today. Let's win together. So thank you for joining me. I didn't have to do this solo today. It's a better
Right.
podcast with Steven today than just me. So I appreciate it. And thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for all you do, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, man. This was awesome. Just being able to chop it with my guy on sports, faith, and life, man. This was great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. He's Steven Stack joining us here on the Unpacking It podcast, and really appreciate it, Steven. That's awesome. Check out StevenLStack.com for more information on him. For Steven, I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast.